Oh.
What are you looking at?
Our next topic.
The goalpost moving?
Have the goalposts moved?
The goalposts.
Where are the goalposts?
They're
Help, Matt! We've lost the goalposts.
Yeah, this one's pretty simple. They maybe launched Tindral Mythic into the trash can,
Interesting.
like they've begun to do every season.
The usual disclaimer here, me and Matt, completely, this is not relevant to us. However, as an example, the person in our team who put together this doc and like leads a lot of the more like higher end, sort of numerically driven content is cutting edge Mythic, Mythic Raider. So this will impact him. Let's take a look. So here's the changes. They've removed a cast of Fire Beam from phase 1. The Flaming Germination damage is reduced by a quarter. The number of Flare Bombs reduced from 4 to 3. And the Empowering Flames damage is increased by 35%. So that's fairly interesting. I imagine that just makes a mechanic easy. It's like, I wonder if it's a bit like with the Flame buff, where it's like just a little bit less, and it goes from being, pressure to, this is completely fine with our cooldowns. Germinating Aura now prevents players from destroying a seed, but no longer spawns a flaming tree, and the number of seeds spawned is now reduced by 4. So that's what they've done in Mythic, which, right, well, I suppose what we can do is look at the pre-nerf numbers then. So this, what you're looking at here, is the number of guild kills for these different bosses. So 4,751 for Gnarlroot. And what you can see to the right then is, it's kind of called guilds currently progressing, where it's basically, they've killed everything up to that boss. So this is, obviously Blizzard will have better data, but this is like roughly what you're sort of looking at here. And you can see with the guilds currently progressing, Igara, pretty high. Nimue, pretty high. I think Council as well, fairly high. Volkros, not a hard dude, 200. Laradar, only 82. Interesting. So you can see, though, that your number of kills, of course, it starts a bit higher. It starts to slow down. From Laradar to Smolderon, it halves. From Smolderon to Tindral, it, from 1,077 to 230 to 112 for Farak, with 118 progressing on Farak. And really, you can basically see Smolderon and Tindral, a lot of people are still currently progressing there. Blizzard are probably thinking, like, okay, when do we want to do Season 4? What do these numbers look like compared to where we would want them to be for this stage in time in a season? Because what was very clear with, say, like in Sepulchre, the first ones, is they looked at the Zoval numbers and they pretty much said, not enough people have killed Zoval, hit the nerf button. Which made him the most nerfed boss in history.
For now.
Oh.
He'll probably stay that way, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of the weird thing where we talked about this a decent while before, and it is just, how much is this okay versus moving goalposts? How much do people want to earn the kill versus get the kill? Is kind of the thing I always think about. It's like, man, do they really, how many people, and because I've seen a couple people in chat, I've seen one say like 220 pulls in, nerfs definitely needed. I saw someone else say they're progging and the nerfs are crazy. So you see there's a little bit of some people maybe go, well, with time, they deserve to get the clear, because that's the kind of the point. So Blizzard will continue and say, "Oh well, okay, well if you didn't do it, we'll make it a little easier. Oh, you did it that week? We'll make it easier next week. We'll just make it easier and easier and easier until you get it." And that's the part that's like, I don't know how I'd feel. Like, if this happened in any single player game, I'd be fucking furious. If I were struggling with a fight on a hard difficulty and then a patch came in and nerfed it, I would probably be pretty mad. And I know that actually happened. It happened the reverse way. Blasphemous 2. I finished Blasphemous 2 within a week of the launching. And
God damn it, Flex. I'm scrolling through our
Blasphemous 2 got a lot of, if I remember correctly, a lot of the bosses actually got buffed a week after. And I was just like, man, that sucks. Because I feel like I didn't finish the game properly. And Blasphemous 2 is a difficult enough Metroidvania that I'm like, take a little bit of measure of pride in playing it like well and doing quickly without many deaths and stuff. And I was like, now I want to play the games. I feel like I didn't actually beat it. And I feel like we talked about this with the Frack nerfs, I definitely feel the same here. I'm like, what do you mean? Especially when it's like, not even struggling, just like, don't. Yeah, Armored Core is the same. Like, Armored Core's a weird one. Where you can kind of see it's the same with people going, oh, well, clearly, however many people are struggling. Like, yeah, but that hurts my experience. And some of that might just be a little bit selfishness of like, no, don't make everyone else's experience better. You're going to make mine worse.
Well, that was the idea of, hey, we bought a product. Some people will like a change, some people won't. Which is why change is challenging.
Yeah, and it's exactly the same here where like, I'm just like, man, that feels crazy to me. That you're just like, because especially because it happens every season now.
Well, what we can do is take a look at some of this data.
Yeah.
So this is what was compiled by Squishy, who I believe was using the same technique, same source that we do, which is the Radar.io stuff, which is all pulled and processed from the Warcraft API. So this is, Blizzard data, essentially. So what you can see here, look at Aberrus. Now this is the amount, let me just double check. So this data, yep. This is the number of people currently progressing, or is this the number of kills?
I see this number of kills, looking at it.
Let me double check. Okay, so the current time frame here are, current kills. Okay, so let's look through these current kills. And this is all week 9, so this is fairly like for like. It's hilarious when you take a look at Sofo, where you have Livium, 1,000, then Halondras, then Anduin, massive drop. So what do Blizzard want from these numbers? Well, they will want them to be higher than they are right now. What is interesting, though, Farak, bit harder than Razageth. Well, okay, no, that's actually not fair to say, because the people who have made their way to Farak is going to be a consequence of the other wall bosses that are there. But basically, you can see like that there are major wall bosses. There are multiple of them. And that's essentially our situation. What happens when there's many progression walls? Well, that basically just means lots of people fall off, some guilds sort of break up. So to take a look at these, 47% of guilds who are 6 out of 9 have killed Smolderon, 22% who have killed Smolderon have killed Tindral, and 46% who have killed Tindral have killed Farak. So that's a pretty large drop-off in kills. Now, if you take a look at Aberrus, what do you see? 70% who are 4 out of 9 Mythic killed Rashok. 70% who killed Skarn also killed Magmarax. 65% who killed Magmarax also killed Neltharion. 43% who killed Neltharion also killed Sarkarath. So that is a much more gradual curve. When you plot out those numbers, you're also looking at a relatively smooth curve for, of course, Vault until you hit Razageth, who was a pretty chunky boss. But then, where do we see something similar? The answer with those big walls is, Sepulchre. Now, so 73% of guilds who killed Behivium killed Halondras. 28% of guilds who killed Halondras killed Anduin. Anduin was very nerfed. You can see Lords of Dead, Rygalon, people didn't have as much of a problem there, and then, of course, the Jailer. Ultimately, the Jailer was a fairly nerfed dude. To talk about the underlying issue, though, one-shots.
One player's mistake equals full raid wipe.
Is that old chestnut again?
Yeah. That's welcome to shared responsibility.
Yeah, so essentially you've got lots of one-shot mechanics that are going on this tier. If one player makes a mistake, everybody's dead, right? Now, in some, there's some similarities, like with bosses like Halondras and Anduin, and the last 3 bosses of Amirdrassil have this with Smolderon, Tindral, and Farak. Per Squishy compiled of Wowhead a list here. So you've got the double seeking Inferno orbs early with Tindral 4, double soaking Seed of Flame, Wild Mushrooms exploding, missing Flare Bomb, and early Dispel and the Fiery Growth, and then Farak has got a missing Intermission Orb. Man, imagine if we had an Intermission Orb in our mode. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Give me my orb. Blaze hitting Healerad, not breaking the Shadow Cage, Permastun, and Seeds and Corrupting Seeds exploding. Oh man, it seems like they had Seems like they got a full fight.
I mean, we did have intermission orbs.
Oh yeah, I just kind of forgot about them because they were so easy. Yeah,
we also did have Blaze hitting healer ads and seeds.
Oh yeah, they just didn't matter.
It's just that they didn't.
Yeah,
it's just that we were skill diff and didn't have those problems. Which is a funny way to say it because we did have those problems until we didn't.
Oh yeah. I wish it was more tightly tuned and heroic.
I wish the same.
You know that thing where it's like
mechanics. I hate when mechanics go wrong and you survive. That makes me so fucking mad.
Although you do want to balance.
You want to balance, but you don't want it to be. Well, it doesn't matter.
Well, I think it's kind of wise what FF does, and I'm not saying this is something they should implement for like a thing in WoW, but in FF, if you get hit by something once, you get a vulnerability. If you get hit by it again and you're still alive, well, you got another stack of that vulnerability. The vulnerability will like wear off over time, but the idea is if you're hit once, it's not going to insta kill you, but it is going to put a little bit of fear in you because you know you've got your vulnerability. And if you somehow survive with, 2 vulnerabilities, then you're just going to be like, ah.
It is effectively, in most cases, unless you're above geared, it's like a 2 strikes and you're out.
Yeah.
Sometimes 3 if you're good with defenses and you have a healer with like shields and babying you.
So do you think that doing a vulnerability like, doing the system like that, do you think that lets them have a bit more latitude in how they actually design those fights? Because there's kind of some slack in the system where even if somebody makes a mistake, they're not getting off scot-free.
So the difference there is if you're trying to make an FF14 comparison, then you have to remember in Savage, it's either one player mistake is a wipe or it's damage downs, which make it way harder to do that. And that's the thing where like, because of the smaller group size, and generally like different flavor of design, you end up getting one mistake will wipe you eventually, either by wiping you right away or the damage down, meaning you don't hit enrage. And that's kind of it's very difficult to compare the two because of that specifically. Because you look at, 8 versus 20, World of Warcraft is a lot more granular a game. It's probably the best way to put it. So it makes more sense. It is not just full, like, complete wipes consistently, but it is a little bit it's interesting to see them come back more, but at the same time I can see why, because the amount of people pushing through with gear is a little bit weird. It's like, how do you punish people for failure? How do you make sure they're dead, especially when you look at like combat rest and stuff like that? And I guess it's weird because you look at this, right, where I guess to look at their own philosophy and encounter design talking about, they say, when is it okay to wipe the raid instantly? The answer should be almost never. However, it's reasonable and mythic to kill the player, but the entire raid's over because someone's won your out of position is not our aim. And that's the weird part where I guess they just kind of didn't meet the targets if they're saying would rather not to have to nerf to things 20 times for the rank 100 to 5,000 guilds to be able to blaze the same trail. I guess it's literally because if they aren't... It's hard to say without seeing this in action and like knowing it from the inside perspective. I do obviously have an outsider perspective talking about this stuff. But it is interesting to me that... Like, I guess the question is, why are these instant wipes? Is it just balance being kind of wrong? Is it, oh, well, maybe if these did 10% less damage, you'd be able to see through it? Or just because, say, healing checks are so brutal, then you don't have the capacity to make up for it because you don't have, say, you don't have a spare AMZ or a spare healing cooldown of some capacity to, like, actually sort it out?
I recommend you scroll down. J.B's.
J.B. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I saw that one. That one makes complete sense to me. Like,
it's fun.
Yeah, because that's I don't. Oh yeah, like the Hollandrus bombs. I forgot about that. The Hollandrus bombs. I'm just going, oh, this is clearly too hard. But because we've had this conversation like every season now, and it comes back to the same thing of, is Mythic for everyone?
Nope. Shouldn't be.
Is Mythic for all the Mythic players?
Yes. Is it?
Do we need another difficulty on top?
Oh, I'm
do
so
we
tired.
do we need to raise the world first difficulty? Like, but then you don't do that because that's arbitrarily walling people off.
Oh man.
So you need to make more gentle curves. And what else do you do here? Like, how do you make this? Oh well, what do you do? It's an RPG with gearing. Let's make gearing do that. Oh, but then that's the problem because we have split runs and we have the race the world first people being mega instant geared as soon as possible. Because as soon as you say you can't get the good gear until later, everyone loses their shit. Like they do with tier sets, like they do with crafting faster. And obviously that makes sense for a lot of like the actual speed of how you play the game.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to this, because I don't think most people don't want this long grind. And some people don't even want to not be able to beat a fight because they don't have the gear. Which then means you just have the issue of, are you making this too hard?
Well,
because the top 1% or the top 0.1% of your game, 0.1% probably more correct, if not 0.01%, are literally walking over it.
So the most, like, not the most, but one funny way they tried to get around this in the past was you just getting a progressive buff to damage and healing, which they did in Icecrown Citadel, and then they explained why they did that. Now, there's other points in time where they've sort of tried to do that via different means by just making players a bit more powerful via the gear that they earn.
Yeah.
Titan forging. They had a thing go on though with per Anduin. We were actually Anduin was one that hit us because it was absolutely nerf batted so hard and heroic. We were mid progression and we were loving the fight.
That keeps happening us.
Yeah, we were progressing. We were actually, because like we don't raid a humongous. We were 2 nights a week. We were enjoying that fight so much, and that was a pretty bad experience. Like, I'll admit that was a bad experience.
Yeah, that's like the same where I
was still having fun, but bad taste in the mouth.
Yeah, I'm really not satisfied with how Amirdrassil ended either, because I'd rather have taken another night to beat Farak rather than them going,
yeah,
and you can have it killed now. You can have it for free. I don't want handouts, Blizzard.
Just think
I want to play a game and struggle like
Razagath.
Yeah,
like,
Razagath was good.
Good fight.
Yeah.
And we had good real progression in that fight, and by the end we felt like, oh, that was great. Great. Yeah. So there you go. Of course, though, we're only doing that in heroic. I suppose for we're the mythic site. Well, they certainly have have their big chat to do. I'm not really sure. It's one of those things. I don't really have skin in this game, so it does feel a bit weird, like, trying to have any sort of like, this is an opinion from a place of knowledge. But I mean, the thing that we can speak to is the times where it's hit us in heroic and we haven't appreciated it.